大家能听到我吗？
Welcome back. Now we'll start the second half session of this afternoon. We'll have two panel discussions. For the first group, we'll discuss the topic on steering the future on marine tech. And I would like to give a brief introduction about the context of this discussion. As we know, Singapore has been ranked as a leading maritime city. So in the Marine Index that released several days ago, Singapore also ranked the top leading maritime business. The vitality of Singapore has always been maintained, attracting a lot of players to have innovative trials in Singapore. And we need to know a platform that plays a very important role, which is Pier 71. This platform supports the growth and vibrancy to startup companies and as well as key stakeholders. It boosts the innovative platforms and provide innovative solutions. The moderator for this session is a key characteristics that support the establishment of a Pier 71, and he has provided support to the development of a hackathon, as well as in 2017 smart and port and competition was also facilitated by him. So this is Desmond Tay, Assistant Director from Innovation, Technology, Talent Development and Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. Let's give a warm round of applause to welcome Tay to be the host for this session. You have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Let me give an introduction. The maritime supply chain is an important backbone for the world, and it represents 20% of world trade, and is facing increasing pressure to digitalize, decarbonize, strengthen supply chain resilience, optimize operational efficiencies, and enhance seafarers' welfare and training. The port and maritime industries need to embrace new technologies and put in place new processes to meet these demands. To support the industry in this transformation effort, Singapore has created a strong innovation ecosystem where key stakeholders can come together to drive this digital transformation. These efforts have gained recognition globally and has Singapore consistently ranked as the top maritime city. In a recent research report co-developed by DMB and Manor Economics released in January, it has ranked Singapore as the top maritime city in the area of maritime technology. These efforts to support the maritime industry, it acts as a catalyst in accelerating innovation ventures and bringing together key players and creating opportunities for collaboration in the industry. Through Pier 71 Smart Port Challenge, we were able to work with industry partners through our Maritime Innovation Workshop to garner challenge statements. These problem statements are divided into 5 areas: smart port, smart shipping, smart maritime services, crew safety, training and well-being, and in the area of green technology. For Smart Port Challenge 2022, which was launched on 20th May, we have curated a list of 15 problem statements with support from 16 maritime companies. For this year, we have a strong focus on decarbonization as well. These challenges are then broadcast to the international community of startups to seek their proposals. From 2018 to 2021, we have received more than 600 startup proposals locally and internationally. Through an intensive selection and interview process, a group of startups was selected our program. To date, we have accelerated close to 80 startups. Startups that are selected for the program would also have an opportunity to apply for grant funding from MPA. In total, we have supported 50 startup projects with a grant funding of 2.45 million to develop their innovative solutions and support their trials with industry partners. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Desmond. I'm the Assistant Director of Maritime Innovation Ecosystem Department with the Maritime Port Authority of Singapore, MPA in short. Together with my team, we are responsible for the setup of Pier 71 program with NUS Enterprise. Our focus is to support the development of a healthy and innovative MarineTech ecosystem to support the maritime industry in Singapore and worldwide. Today, we are honored to have 4 startups from Pier 71 to join us and talk about their work. Together, these 4 startups provide solutions in the area of smart port, smart shipping, and crew safety. And allow me to introduce them. We have Mr. Stephen Ho. Stephen, please give a wave. From Skylab. We have Miss Christina Lagarde from River. We have Mr. Vernon from Envision. And Mr. Marcus from Vibrancy. Before we start, I would like to invite my panelists to give a short introduction about themselves and the work they do. Maybe we should start with Miss Christina. Christina?
Just unmute myself here. Thank you very much, Desmond. So, hi everyone. My name is Christina and I'm the CEO and co-founder of River. We started River back in April 2020 when the pandemic has just started and when government started to make crew changes more challenging or stopped allowing them at all. And here we saw a strong use case for our solution. So what River provides is a strong trust platform, and by applying blockchain technology in our solution, we could easily verify the validity of PCR tests and vaccination records of crew coming to Singapore. So instead of having to trust a declaration form from a maritime company and their crew, we could now create transparency all the way back to the medical provider and lab who had performed and issued the PCR test and vaccination record to the crew. And today we're focused on MedTech, where we can help healthcare ecosystem stakeholders in their digital transformation and technology adoption, offering key services that enable virtual care platforms, telehealth, and AI clinical decision support, and thereby bringing the promise of precision and personalized health to everyone, including those working in the maritime industry.
Thank you, Christina. May I now invite Stephen from Skylab. Give an introduction about yourself and the work you do.
Very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Ho, and I'm the Group Chief Operating Officer of Skylab. Skylab is a deep tech software company that specializes in data logistics products, platforms, and solutions. Our products is currently adopted in different domains, ranging from green energy, smart built environment, and of course the smart maritime, as well as the telecommunication sectors. So at Skylab, we started live back in 2016. We are very focused on the delivery of data, content, applications, and workload across hybrid cloud and communications environment. So it ranges from 3G, 4G, 5G, microwave, satellite. And that is also precisely why we actually pivoted into the maritime world. We were addressing one of the big pain points that was faced in the maritime world. And I'll talk about that later in the panel. But thank you very much. Nice to meet all of you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. May I now invite Dr. Marcus from Vibrancy. Dr. Marcus, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Marcus, founder of Vibrancy. In fact, I was born in China, Fujian, and I grew up in Singapore. I was educated in US, graduated from Carnegie Mellon and Stanford. And I founded Vipix 2017 to drive digitization and automation using AI and big data. So fast forward, we have a product and services deployed in Singapore and China, including the province in Fujian and Guangzhou. And through Pier 71, Vipix started the business of digitization for smart shipping. In particular, we want to help to do the vessel inspection remotely. In COVID-19 pandemic, vessel inspection has been made very difficult. Inspector not able to go on board. Vipix helped to solve this problem to Pier 71. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Marcus. May I now invite Vernon? Vernon, can you give a short introduction about yourself?
Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm actually on site at PSA Tuas Terminal right now. So for Envision, we are dealing in AI deep learning based machine vision software, focusing in the areas of safety and operations. The startup is basically we incorporated in 2017, 5 years ago. So since 2018, we actually also participated in Pier 71's Smart Port Challenge, and through there, I think we actually connected with PSA, and we basically started carrying out POCs with them. And since then, we have since 2018 started to win tenders from PSA to incorporate our safety, our software systems on their cranes. And we have so far right now in the Pasir Panjang terminal, we have secured more than 6 million worth of contracts, and our systems are on almost all of the different kinds of container handling equipments, the key crane, the rubber tire gantry cranes, the rail mounted gantry cranes, the empty container handlers. So yeah, and right now I think we are trying to expand towards the Tuas terminal, and we are actually doing our POCs here. So yeah, so this is our brief introduction.
Thank you, Vernon. Now, let me go into my first question for the day to my panelists, to Vernon and Marcus. The port and maritime industry is the backbone for maritime trade. However, there are still many traditional processes being followed. Unlike other industries, it has been slow to adopt new practices and technologies. From your engagement with the port and maritime industry, what do you think are some of the challenges that you have faced, that you have seen in port and shipping operations, and how have your startup addressed them? Maybe can I invite Vernon to address this question first? How have your startup addressed those challenges that you have seen in the port and shipping industry?
I think from the start that we have come in is that of course I think the challenge here is that most of these equipments the port don't refresh. I think they don't bring in new equipments every year, like, in a sense. So most of their equipments are I would say having certain number of years, in a sense. And as they also, I mean, they also take time to, I would say, bring their cranes to a certain automated level before they can implement some sort of technology, further enhanced technologies. In a sense, so I would say that the challenge is actually the integration. So while you are trying to impose your solution, your technology on them, you have to be also aware that the most difficult part is actually not the technology. It's basically the integration with their existing systems, the crane management system. I think this is the more challenging part rather than the solution itself. The solution, that's why I think in a sense it is actually more beneficial to work with universal platforms, as in you build your systems on an open platform that can integrate, because in a sense you must also understand that for port operators around the world, not just PSA, all of them use different management platforms. So if you want your solutions to be able to work, the important part is the integration. Not the solution is a solution, but you have to separate it from the system integration.
Thanks, Vernon. Yeah, I think indeed in the sense that the port is a heavy investment, and for the port, for some of the older ports, there is a need to be able to integrate newer technologies onto existing platforms. Therefore, it's important to have the ability to have startups build their technology on an open platform like yours that allows you to integrate onto existing PSA platform readily. Am I right?
Yes, in a way, because to be quite frank, they have based on, because it's based on open tenders. So PSA actually work with Korean system providers, Chinese or even the Europeans. So you have to and based on the different ages when the equipments are brought in. So you have to like ready your system to be able to integrate with and work well with the process flow, the crane's process flow.
Thanks, Vernon. Dr. Marcus, how is your startup addressing those challenges in the port and shipping industry?
Okay, we coming from the point of COVID-19 actually made the maritime industry much more important to everyone. We see that literally the maritime is supporting the entire trade, and so vessels are being very busy. Taking shipments from China to Singapore or any part of the world, and we also see that the crews are follow the vessels around the world. So as a vessel being very busy, a lot busier than the usual time, vessel inspection become even more important. But this is something that vessel operations tend to let go when vessel become very busy. So we look at this. There is an increase in business. At the same time, there is a crunch in the manpower. So VBIS coming to want to solve the efficiency and the safety for vessel inspection. How can we do more, but at the same time with automations and to achieve efficiency and safety? So that was a challenge we want to address to Pier 71. And the way we do that is usually in the last time, the inspector had to go on board, to do thorough inspections. But we know that as COVID-19 came in, there are a lot more compliances. The crews may need to go for ART tests, to inspector need to do ART tests before go on board all this. So it makes the time, available time to do inspection is much harder. So the creative solution we have is, can we have a vessel inspection without inspector going on board of vessels? So through Pier 71, we came out with this VR and AI technology to help vessel doing inspections. So instead of inspector going on board, we have a crew that walking through the entire vessels, and these footages were processed by our AI and recommending the defects, recommending the concern, safety concern to inspector remotely. So in that way, inspector, in China, in Singapore, can inspect vessel remotely, even the vessel is on the move or even in congested at a port. So we can do this regularly to ensure that safety is not compromised as a business increase. And at the same time, there's a change in the way of doing the inspection through AI that allow us to maintain the vessel to be in good conditions. We know that vessel is getting a lot more business and getting old. The inspection has to be done regularly to keep the vessel safe, to keep the vessel efficient. So that is what VBIS solved over the year, and with one of our partners in Singapore, and they operate hundreds of vessels. And through that experience, we truly made this technology and product very useful for vessel inspection.
Thank you, Dr. Marcus. Indeed, I think during the COVID-19 situation, around the world, a lot of ports were closed down, and vessels couldn't get inspected, and crew couldn't get changed. How do we ensure that vessels still operate in a safe manner, and all the inspection of the vessels still can proceed? And therefore, having a remote inspection tool would help. And this has definitely changed the way some of the vessel inspections are now being conducted. And with your tool, I believe you are now able to help the companies conduct vessel inspection of the environment more regularly and ensure that this environment is more conducive for the seafarers and provide a safe place for them to work on that aspect. Thank you, Dr. Marcus, for sharing with us on this part of it. Now, Stefan, let me direct the next question to you. As the port and maritime industries adopt more digital solutions into their business and work processes, we can expect a tremendous amount of data to be collected on land as well as be on board. I think the solutions provided by Envision and Vibits collects a huge amount of data as they rely on video on that front. From Skylab's perspective, how has the industry's digitalization efforts impacted the requirements for data communications, particularly between vessels and ports on that aspect?
Thank you very much for the question, Desmond. And in fact, that was precisely the problem statement we were responding to back in 2018 in the Smart Port Challenge. At that point in time, we heard and we were told that there is exactly what you mentioned, an increased need for data harvestation, acquisition, and transfer from all kinds of sources for the purposes of communication, equipment data, or even crew welfare. And I'm sure many of us might have heard that data is the new oil. So the challenge really is, how do we smoothen the flow of data through available infrastructure? And by that, I mean most seafaring vessels, they are making use of satellite. And satellite has its own limitation. No matter how fast we want to make it, there's always a limitation, be it low orbit satellites or even VSAT and so on and so forth. It's always restricted. So what we have done at Skylab is to develop technology, which we know as data logistics technology, as part of our intellectual property, that allows us to smoothen the flow of data through available infrastructure, be it satellite, VSAT, or even through cellular. And we are very happy to report that our technology has allowed us to increase the throughput of data by upwards of 300%. And it has also reduced the response time by half. So this plays a very important role, especially as you mentioned, there's so many applications that's riding on this infrastructure. And increasingly, there's a need for video analytics, not just for social reasons, not just for crew welfare, but it's also for the purposes of predictive analytics. So I think for us, our contribution towards the digitalization of the smart port, and like as you mentioned, between vessels and land, really is to smoothen that flow between the two places.
Thanks, Stefan. Let me dig deep. Let me dig deep a little bit deeper on that front. Satellite communications is very expensive, and when they're at sea. And satellite communication is the only way for seafarers while the vessels are traveling in international waters, in the Pacific Ocean, across the Indian Ocean. How does Skylab manage the cost of this communication, and how does Skylab ensures that the company can have the ability to manage data transfers as and when needed? Can you share a little bit more about how you address these challenges?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for asking that question, Desmond. I think that's a very good question. Maybe I'll give you some examples. So we've done a lot of tests back in 2018 with a lot of partners. And I just give you a simple example. As you rightly pointed out, satellite communication is very expensive. And for example, 1 megabyte of satellite transmission can cost you anywhere between $1 and $15, depending on the package that you're signed up for. So traditionally, when you try to send out, say, an email with a 1 megabyte attachment, which is in this time and age, it's not a big deal, right? On land, that goes through very quickly. We have done experiments and we realized that that 1 megabyte of attachment can end up becoming 6 megabytes because of all the retransmission, because it doesn't get through. I think we're familiar with that behavior on land sometimes when you send a message and it goes round and round and it doesn't get through. And the problem is this: although you're sending 1 megabyte of data across, eventually you end up sending 6 megabytes. So if you think of the 5 extra megabyte that you're sending, and each one of them costs 15 USD per megabyte, that number adds up very, very quickly. So what happens is at Skylab, we have actually developed technology that allows us, when you send one, only one gets across. So this is a very big benefit. And in fact, a lot of, in the region, a lot of ocean-going shipping lines are actually adopting our technology. That's number one. Number two, our technology have another very interesting feature, which is the seamless switching between cellular networks and satellite. Meaning to say, if your vessel is somewhere near to shore, and you don't necessarily have to make use of satellite, it can seamlessly switch over into cellular network, and that you can do your download of big files. Now, why is this an important feature? Because for those of us who have been on board ships doing ship communication, you will realize every time you switch between one network to the next, there's this thing called shutting down and rebooting, and there's a lag time that runs into the minutes. So with the Skylab technology, actually allows for seamless switching. So it's actually transparent to you, just like how we would do it when we use our mobile phone. If there's a Wi-Fi, it goes to Wi-Fi. If there's no Wi-Fi, it goes to 4G or even 5G. So in that sense, we have been helping our clients and partners tremendously in terms of cost reduction. And not only are we moving data today, we are also moving content applications. So what that simply suggests is, as mentioned by the previous speakers, if you have other applications that you need to move from shore onto the edge compute that is on board the ship, you need to have an easy way of doing it. And more importantly, you do not want it to be in a proprietary manner, meaning to say you're stuck with certain protocols that you cannot break out from, because that adds to the cost. So for us, we ensure that it is a seamless flow, not just of data, but of content applications. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Stefan. I think that will mean that you're also able to leverage on 4G, 5G, existing cellular networks, especially when the vessels are around the corner near ports, when they can tap on the cellular networks for communication.
Absolutely. In fact, that's what we have done. Our platform actually allows people to kind of dictate when they want to do the download. So imagine if you have a 200 megabyte file, surely you do not want to do it over satellite link. That is going to cost a bomb, right? But as soon as you are near to shore, where you get cellular, straight away, automatically it downloads, right? So this again, helps shipping owners, shipping lines reduce the cost of operation.
Thank you very much, Stefan.
Thank you.
Christina, let me come over to you. I think one of the main focus with COVID was that we are trying to build supply chain resilience. And supply chain resilience doesn't just mean the transportation of cargo. It also ensures that the ships are operated safely, and they can bring the crew from one place to another place, the cargo safely. And on that aspect, the crew has become an important stakeholder in the maritime industry and for the supply chain. On that part, how are startups like River working with port operators and maritime companies building tech solutions in ensuring such supply chain disruptions are minimized, especially for the crew? Christina?
Thanks, Desmond, for that question. I think there are many ways to go on that, but one is definitely seamless real-time data exchange between stakeholders in a secure platform, just like Stephen was mentioning just before. It's no different when it comes to crew information and health status. The only challenge or difference between that is the sensitivity of the data involved and what should and should not be shared with different stakeholders at different times. And I think one of the challenges we've really seen during the pandemic is that the annual health check or the pre-employment medical examination is not enough to build a resilient workforce. So I don't know if any of you knows this, but working in the maritime industry is actually said to be one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, next after crocodile wrestling. So that kind of puts things into perspective, I would say. So you can imagine how a job in this industry would affect you both physically, but also your mental health. And even more during the pandemic when contracts were prolonged for those on board the vessels. So we could secure the supply chain was still going on. We could go get our groceries in the supermarkets and so on and so forth. But nobody really considered the overall health of the seafarers on board and those working in the port, you could say. So what we're bringing into this equation is more holistic view on crew health without compromising data privacy by using AI and blockchain technology in our solutions. So you can say instead of just focusing on sick care like we did when COVID hit, you got COVID, then you're taking out of your job for a little while, right, before you can come back and proceed with operations. So what we're focusing on is more real-time crew health monitoring that could actually help prevent accidents due to health conditions and ultimately save lives. So this is more like a long-term thing instead of, oh, you got COVID, or, oh, you need to be repatriated from a vessel to the nearest port. We need to reroute things. Now, this is something where we're looking at the crew health in a longitudinal perspective. So we're able to say, oh, this guy, he's actually in risk of hypertension and ultimately diabetes, so on and so forth. Should he, in fact, be on this vessel for the next 8 months, or should we change to another resource we have in the group that we can deploy right away that has a better health status right now? But again, everything is shared with respect to data privacy, which I think is extremely important to remember in this, because at the end of the day, we don't want to share your personal details, so you shouldn't know anything else, everything about me. You just need to know whether or not I'm fit for duty, and I'm fit for duty for the next 6 months you're offering me a contract. So it's more like can I do it now, or should I not do it now? Where I think that's been really missing in terms of trying to build this supply chain resilience we're all talking about.
Thank you, Christina. Yeah, indeed, you're right to say that data privacy, especially when we are handling information for crew, is very critical, especially when borders are beginning to open up, but yet there are certain, yet we still need to be cognizant, we still need to be sensitive to the crew that's on board to ensure we do not bring a person infected with COVID on board. And therefore, how do we manage data like COVID tests to ensure that all governments, when they are traveling through the customs, have the same set of data? So we do expect the crew traveling in from another country in Singapore to have a same level of data clarity about their COVID test when they are overseas, even though now COVID test is no longer required when you're entering into Singapore. And that said, slowly we see the world changing, but nonetheless, companies might still wish to put in their processes to ensure the crew are not badly affected when one is down on that. They want to ensure that. So how do we handle those data privacy and ensure that no one seafarer is omitted from having a valid contract to work on board ship to a livelihood, and yet at the same time take care of these valuable resources while they work on board ship on those fronts. And this is very important as we seek many ways to help the maritime industry. I can clearly remember in the earlier days of COVID, MPA launched the telemedicine services for the seafarers on board to ensure that they can get medical help, and medicines are being delivered to the ships. And all in all, this is to ensure our seafarers are well taken care and they have the necessary data regarding about their health and their health situations to be shared with the companies in a relevant format, secure format, and not to be omitted from the contract itself. I think that is an important solution as we go along, as we build this digital wallet for the crew on their identity and on their health information for the seafarers. Now, I have a few more questions before we move. I think I want to move into this question regarding about decarbonization, as I spoke earlier. I think decarbonization is an important focus for the maritime industry, especially with the upcoming IMO 2030 carbon reduction targets. And how does this increasing need to decarbonize change the way the port operators and maritime companies look into managing some of their processes? Maybe I want to start with Stefan. How is this increasing need to decarbonize change the way port operators and maritime companies are operating? Is digitalization the only way?
Yeah, thanks, Desmond. I think one word comes to my mind when we talk about decarbonization as far as the maritime industry is concerned, and that word is optimization. How do we optimize all the processes, right? So I think that's a very key point. Can we reduce? Ideally, we should, but end of the day, it's always a trade-off. So how do we optimize? Now, case in point, I think early on, Christina also mentioned, if the ship has to be rerouted back to port, we are talking about easily 10,000 to 20,000 USD every day when they are away from their route. That's number one. Number two, they are actually incurring additional time, effort, fuel just to get to port. Now, then the question is, can we avoid situations like this? Well, the only one way to do it, obviously, is through digitalization, where you get to have not just crew health that needs to be monitored, but also equipment health, right? Routing, equipment health, and so on and so forth. So in order for all those things to happen, obviously, there would be a certain level of computational power that has to happen on board. But at the same time, you also need to have a link, a very smooth link back to land, where that can guide you along in terms of optimization. And in fact, one of the projects that we have worked on is how do we improve predictive analytics? How do we make use of onboard diagnostic? So our partners have actually leveraged on our platform and technology to do just that. So they are making use of video analytics, data harvestation, and so on and so forth, just to make sure that not only the crew, of course, is their ping of health, but even the equipment and on board is as well. So to me, if we can kind of optimize those processes over time, that would make big contribution towards decarbonization. Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan. Dr. Marcus, any thoughts on that? On how has the need to decarbonize changed the way these companies are working today?
I totally agree with Stephen about digitization and how to maintain the efficiency and safety of operating vessels. So as it may seem like decarbonization is to reduce usage, but in fact, as we can see that through COVID-19 pandemic, vessel shippings are getting more business. And so how to reduce carbon when you have more business? The only way to do that is to make it more efficient and more safely. So vessels can operate always in the best condition, and crew members can have a best health to run the vessels. And to do that, regular inspection is become very important. We truly believe like vessel inspection is just like a human's regular health checkup. As we approach 40 years old, mid-age, the only thing you do differently is you go to clinic, you go to doctor, do a checkup every year. So we say that as a vessel approaching 15 years is a threshold. We need to do maintenance inspection regularly. Preferably, we say that you do it half yearly. And through VBIC's smart inspection technology, you can do it even more regularly, like monthly or quarterly. And it's a fraction of cost. So we see that we can do more with technology and minimizing the risk of downtime, minimizing safety compromisation, for example, leakage. And like if you need to go back to port again, all this wastage can be minimized with optimal condition of vessels. So going forward, start with everybody, every vessel is how can we keep the vessel at the best condition as it is, as a vessel move more business around the world.
Thanks, Dr. Marcus. Vernon, what about you? What are your thoughts about the need to decarbonize from the port side of things? Now that you're at PSA Plus terminal.
I think for PSA side, in a sense, they are looking at improving their workflow. Mostly, I think in the Tuas port especially, we'll be seeing more and more kinds of automation system coming up. By doing this, I think if you are looking at the old kind of operations versus the current operation, right, where last time it used to be more human manpower, labor intensive, you also realize that based on daytime and nighttime, I would say that the workflow, the process flow is basically nighttime is definitely slowing down the efficiency because people tend to work slower at night due to safety also. But as you basically automate, right, the efficiency between day and night suddenly becomes the difference is actually slower. And you do realize that if your efficiency improves at night, we all know that in terms of the power, the energy usage between the peak and non-peak period, right? And the port basically works 24 hours. So if the automation, I mean, as you get more and more automated, right, and more efficient, and you can focus. I mean, if you can get more work done at night, rather than fight for energy in the day, the energy consumption will actually, I mean, in a sense, I believe it will be more efficient. I think this is in terms of process wise, I think this will also help PSA in a sense, or basically other port operators.
I think indeed you're right, and the energy consumption, I mean, in general, is much lower in the night. So improving efficiency in the night will be important for the ports, and therefore looking into automation definitely will help in that manner. Thanks, Vernon. Christina, what about your views?
Yeah, I think I'm very much aligned with the rest of the group here, especially Stephen. I think we have the same passion for seamless data exchange and secure when it comes to that. So again, I think the only way forward for this industry is to digitize and automate a lot more of these processes. I mean, I just came back from a trip in Manila recently where we met with a few crewing agents there, and the amount of paper that they still use and have lying around in the office it's mind-blowing. And we're in the 2022, right, where most of the things should be digitized, right? And I think there's really an interest as well in the industry to do so, but again, it feels like we're hindered by regulations that cannot follow, you know, the increasing demand and need for digitization in this industry. Because whenever you talk to a new person, they say, oh yeah, I would love to, but the government doesn't allow me to digitize it. I need to have the original paper-based certificate on board the vessel. And that's the same with equipment. So Stephen must see the same issue when it comes to equipment on board vessels. It's the exact same. So things like this it seems ridiculous, but I think it would have a huge effect as well on our footprint.
Thank you, Christina. A few more questions. How, in terms of collaboration with startups, I think we form a very unique proposition. I would like to seek your views on how can port operators, maritime companies, or even government agencies who are looking to help the maritime industry transform, support startups in their work with the industry. Maybe Dr. Marcus, what do you think? How can we get the industry to work together with you more closely?
This is a very difficult question, and it's very important. It's very difficult questions. I would say our experience with ports and shipping industry hasn't been very easy and smooth, but that is because usually ports it require quite a bit of the company size need to be it's like Huawei, you know, they present about all the big plans for ports. The technology involvement, the robustness in the solution, ports and MarineTech looking for tend to be a lot more stringent than the other industry where you can just test out and find a value proposition. And this challenge, in fact, I would say Singapore has done very well by having this MPA on board to bring the corporate and startup together to facilitate the solutions and child opportunities. So, startup like Vibix, our solution was little known to the world, but we have the opportunity to test with the biggest vessel operation in the world. So that is a magic. So basically, we need this kind of environment that the ports can open up to small startups like Vibix, to test out some solution that you haven't used before. And of course, there is a risk involved, but startup always take risks. So we need to go for it. But we aim for the automations that finally will bring the benefit to the ports and the shipping industry. So to summarize everything, the biggest facilitation is to have the ports to shipping operation to willing to take risks and work with a small startup like Vibix to bring out the innovative solutions. And as a startup in Singapore, we speak both English and Chinese. We are willing to go to China if you are in China or you want to come to Singapore, welcome you. That's all I have.
Any closing remarks from other startups regarding about this, particularly on how port and maritime companies can work with startups like yourself, Stefan, Vernon, Christina? Any closing remarks on that particular?
Thanks. Yeah, maybe I'll jump in on that. I fully support what Dr. Marcus has said, and in fact, it's not because you are here that's why I'm saying this, but we are really appreciative of the Smart Port Challenge, MPA, Pier 71, and for good reasons. Skylab is a very good example. We were not originally from the maritime industry. We were in the IT world. We are not from the maritime. And we have limited understanding, we have limited network into this industry. But because of the Smart Port Challenge that we took part in 2018, we were exposed to the whole ecosystem. And that is very important. And adding on to what Dr. Marcus just said, because if you do not know anyone in the industry, nobody believes you, no matter how good your technology seemingly is. But because of this whole exposure, of course, people get to know us, we get to know people. And then MPA together with Smart Port Challenge to be Pier 7 allows us to have the test bed, to have the opportunity to try it out in a different setting. This piece of technology was originally used in the green energy management, but we have not used it in maritime. But afterwards, interestingly, there was attraction, and people start looking for us and say, hey, interesting, you have an interesting piece of technology. So this also brings on another important point that I'd like to make, which is cross-fertilization of ideas. Because there will always be ideas that is already somewhere else in another industry that might not necessarily be in the current industry. So the opportunity to have such platforms and ecosystems to kind of bring people together, exchange of ideas, exchange of information, exchange of opportunity, I think that's very valuable. So I'm sure a forum like this with our friends from Ningbo, this could also be the start of some exchange of ideas and information. And hopefully in the months and years ahead, we can kind of draw closer together and experiment new things together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, everyone. As we draw the session to a close, what we want to present to you from Pier 71 is a small sample of the startups that we are currently working with. And if you are keen to engage them for a discussion, Pier 71 will be happy to connect you to them. Definitely. If you're interested to learn more about our program, we'd like to invite you to have a conversation with us and to allow us to share more about our program and how we can benefit together. And lastly, I would like to thank our panelists, Christina, Stefan, Dr. Marcus, and Vernon, for taking time to share the work they do in the area of smart port, smart shipping, and crew safety. I hope the audience have a good conference and have a good day ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
谢谢 Desmond， 感谢您非常精彩的主持，也感谢各位讨论嘉宾。然后我看到这个环节的讨论以后。
From this panel, I think it's quite inspiring to me. In China, as far as I know, there are almost 300 smart port solution providers and technology providers. We hope that we can have more communication and exchanges in the future. Okay, thank you again.